One of you asked me to do a series on living alone, and I feel a bit of a twat here because I'm just kind of talking to you, but Um, I'm not sure what visuals I can do. One of the most important things when you are living on your own and you're becoming responsible for yourself as an adult is to make sure that you have control of your money. Like it or lump it, money and budgeting is really important to all of us, whether you have got squillions of quid and very rich parents, or whether you're on the bones of your arse and you're trying to survive on universal credit. If you can manage your money, your whole life will be much easier. Now, I know that there are some banks and some apps. I think my daughter uses one called Monzo, and I don't really know how they work, but I'm sure they work in much the same way. And by all means, look into it. I was going to research into it, and I thought realistically, I'm not the best person to do that. I'm sure there are numerous people on YouTube who know all about this stuff. So, what I will say is if you're impulsive and you've got bad self control, um, then you need to make sure that money you cannot afford to spend must be tied up. Um, However, you do it, whether you do it with an app that you can lock up so you don't remove it, whether you have a bank that you don't have on phone banking so you can't drunkenly on a night out transfer so that you can spank it all up the wall, whatever. But lock money away. When you get your money in, however you get it, be it benefits or your wages, the first thing you have to do is take out the important bills that must be paid, and they are rent, council tax, utilities, and your phone bill. So do it on an app or do it on a piece of paper. Take those out, take all the essential bills, things that you have to pay. If you've got a car, you need to take some money out for your car, for the running cost and for the tax and for the insurance, however much that is, and put that into an account. And as much as you can, try and get that stuff taken up by direct debit. If you have an electricity key and a key meter, I used to use a company called Ebico when I was on a meter because they were very reasonable and they didn't charge extra for key meters. Put the money on that so that you won't go without. What's left is effectively what you've got to spend. But of course, you can't spend it on jam. You have to spend it on things that you need. Now, I've always found that if you've got a monthly income, the easiest way to do it is to divide it into 4 and then lock away 3 weeks and you've got a week's money. Because if you completely ruin it and you can't get to that money, you've only got 3 days surviving on toast, not 3 weeks. And that is a little bit easier. It all depends on your self-control and how you manage. Some people are brilliant. And I know that a lot of you won't have enough money to be able to save anything. Anything that you can save might be useful. Even putting change in a piggy bank at the end of the day, just putting it into a jar so that you've got, if you need be, a couple of quid in there for something. It all helps. There might come a day when you'll be really glad of it. But the first thing is sort your money out, get control of your money so that your basics are taken care of. Don't put off paying bills. I know sometimes it's really difficult because you're robbing Peter to pay Paul and there's more than you can manage. But remember, council tax you must pay because they can enforce that and you can end up in prison for it. That's the absolute one that you have to pay. If you end up running a bill on your gas or electric, you will have to pay it back and they will put a key meter in so you will be able to pay it back in weekly increments. I don't recommend it. I really don't. If you're new to budgeting and you've never run a house before, although key meters, the price you pay per unit can be a bit more expensive, it might not be a bad idea to go onto a key meter for a year or two, because then you will get a feel for how much your electricity and your gas is going to cost you. And then when you flip to having it by a direct debit, you're not going to wake up one month and realise that you've spent £400 on electric that month because you didn't know it was going to cost that much to run a fan heater. Heat is the most expensive thing you can run if you're using electricity. whether it is heat from your cooker or heat from your heating system or heat that your computer kicks off. Heat is the most expensive thing that you can pay for electricity-wise. Lighting bills have come down because of modern low-energy bulbs and stuff. But heat is expensive. So until you know how much the place you are in is going to cost you, a key meter's not a bad idea. I had a nasty shock moving from a house a few years ago where I was putting about £30, 25 to £30 a week in electricity on, and between £10 and £30 in gas, depending on whether it was summer, when I didn't have the heating on, or winter. And I moved into a flat that had storage heaters. And I moved in and I discovered to my horror that I was paying nearly £100 a week in electricity. It was a lot of money. I managed to cut it down a bit by taking various steps, but be very, very aware that you can run up huge bills for things like heating before you even know they're going to be a problem. So be wary. And like I said, if you've never done it before, then it's worth paying a little bit more per unit to have a key meter, and then you're never going to run up a bill. And the worst that's going to happen is the lights are going to go out on a Thursday night and you're not going to have any money till Sunday morning, which will be a bit bloody awkward, but at least then you could borrow a fiver off of somebody to put money on the key. You're not going to wake up and find there's a £700 bill on the doorstep, which is what I did, and it wasn't fun paying that back, I can tell you. So that's the first thing. Work it out, make sure you've got an account that you need, and sometimes have 2 or 3 accounts, and if you're really untrustworthy with money, one of my adult children has got into the habit of transferring chunks of money to me, because I hold them and will release them at stepped intervals, which means the temptation to go, oh my God, I've got 100 quid, let's go to the pub and have a meal and, all the rest of it. We've got to ask somebody for that money. You think about how much you need it. And that's the other thing. Distinguish between a want and a need. Wants are lovely, and never having anything you want is soul destroying and miserable and horrible, and nobody likes it. But be aware that buying things, every time you buy something, you get a lovely little hit of dopamine and it makes you feel happier. And spending money on things you don't need can become addictive. It's like gambling. It can become very addictive and you can end up buying with a load of shite you don't need. So make sure that your needs are covered before you start indulging in wants, because buying those beautiful little frilly shoes and that lovely little top that you really, really like will make you feel absolutely fantastic. But if you've got to go hungry for a week, you might not feel so good at the end of it. And there is a balance there. I'm not saying don't go without anything that you want, because it is a soul-destroying existence never having that. But if you learn to distinguish between the two things, you will be better able to judge whether satisfying a want is worth going without a need. And again, it takes time to learn that one. But you don't need as much stuff as you think you need. Don't forget, we're surrounded, all of us, by advertising all day. You need this, you need that. Your life will be better if you spend this money. Don't fall for it. It's rubbish. It's just trying to get you to part from your money. I said the same thing when I came to the video about doing your washing. So much of this stuff, you don't need it. You might want it, you might be able to afford it, and you might think it would be quite nice. But at least recognise that you don't need it, and then balance the desire to have whatever it is they're selling you against the necessity of something that you will have to sacrifice to get it. And obviously there will be those of you that have an ample income and don't really think about this very much. But I do know when the pandemic hit, there were quite a lot of people who struggled because they had had an income that was sufficient unto their needs, and when it was cut, they really had a problem. So if you can learn that, and if you can get a feel for that earlier, your life will go a lot easier and I'd like a lot less stress, perhaps. And if you get used to that and you get used to balancing that, then when you do start earning a little bit more, then it would be easier to save and to set a little money aside, so that perhaps if you have a nice holiday, you would have money to go away somewhere nice on holiday, rather than realizing that you've got to put that on your credit card and you're paying interest and then you're paying for your holiday all through next year. Being free of debt is quite a satisfying thing. It means things don't creep up and mug you in the night. So that's lesson 1 for today, and I'm sorry I've got no wonderful visuals, and I know I ought to have, but I haven't quite got that there yet. So first things first, get control of your money and learn how to make it work for you. No matter how small an amount or how large an amount, the principle is still the same. Know where your money goes, know what you're spending on it, and have control over it. It will be easier, I promise you.